Good morning. We are moving towards the end of Tahara, one of the most difficult halachas in Rambam. Difficult because of the unfamiliarity that we have with it, since most of the yeshiva system does not learn Taharas in the Gemara. So, although the halacha that we're going to talk about is not a Taharas specific halacha, but it is found in other places, but predominantly in Taharas, and we're going to even associate it in halacha in Hilchos. So, the Rambam Hilchos Keilim Perek Chof Halacha Yud Alef writes that certain items, when they're carved out, they can be used as a keli. So, im chokikon, if they were carved out ladas with the intent of being used for a keli, mekablam tuma. You cut it, you carved it out. It's obvious that's what you're doing. However, what happens if you find a keli that is already carved? You need to make it into a keli. You have to decide that you're using it as a vessel. So if you decide this is going to be a keli, then it's mekabel tuma. Oh, now here comes the topic matter of our discussion today. The Cotton is the one that thinks about it. Or if a person who doesn't own this vessel decides, I want to use it, who are you? Tell you. Now here goes the line. Anything that requires machashava and tuma needs to be done by none of these people. Now here the Rambam writes, the only machashava that helps, you have to own it and be b'nei deya, somebody who has das, which precludes perish straight to the top. Okay, big finish, is it? Well, let's see. Let's rewind. Perek Halacha Yud. Rambam writes about all Keilim, Yerid the Latuma Machashava, Ve'elayim Deituma Ela B'Shina Ma'isa. In order to they should come to a Machashava that make it a Keli is enough. And he gives an example. Tabaz Behema, a Keilim. Shechoshev Aleh Lachzir Tabaz Adam. Now you want it as a ring for a human being? Now, there's a line here that I don't know why, but this is what he said. Okay, it's as if it was originally made for a human being. Now, I haven't found this lashon in the sources of this halacha. I don't know if somebody can find it, but it's, to me, obvious that the Rambam believes that that's what has to happen. Now, halacha Yud Alef, the next halacha. Oh, Chereshet v'Katan yesh la'ma'isa ve'en la'machshava. Chereshet v'Katan has a ma'isa and not machshava, but he references where this halacha goes, which is uncharacteristic of the Rambam. Kimay shebi'arnu l'may law minyan hechsheich, as we explained earlier in hechsheich. So again, the halacha that we learned today in Chof, Perek Chof, is really in Perek Ches. And for some reason, the Rambam felt you have to repeat it. Why? And not only that, but this halacha in Perek Ches is really in Hilchos. It was already explained before in Hechsher Eichlin. Now, what's in Hechsher Eichlin? So he writes that if somebody had, we know that in order for produce to become capable of becoming tamei, they need to come in contact with water. But not only just come in contact with water, they have to come in contact with water that the owner or appreciates the water. So now what happens? You have a bunch of produce, and there was worms, there were insects, and on the bottom floor where insects mostly live. So you decided, I got a solution. Bring it up to the roof where the insects don't live. There were the birds. And you brought it up to the roof. Good. Now there's a problem. When it's in the roof, it gets wet. Dew comes down in the mornings. Even if you tell me there's no rain, the dew comes down. So that dew is not intentional. That's not why I put it there. I put it there to prevent the insects. However, if you intend it, they should get wet. They become mukshal kabel tum, they become ready for tum. And now goes the rule. Therefore, cheres shaped of a cotton. Because it won't work when they think. However, they don't even Rabbanan, their machshava doesn't work. However, there is a machshava that works with Rabbanan. Where's that? If the Ketanim were moving it and playing with it, moving it around, because you see that he wants it to be there. So that's called machshava, machshavte nikeres mitech ma'isa. And that helps midrabbanan, not midraisa, only midrabbanan. Okay, that is Perek Yudal. You think that's the only time he says this? I got surprised for you. Perek Gimel Halacha Yud Tumasech talks about a bird that fell into a vat of wine and died. It's a good death. He died drinking. Even though the vat is in the Medina, Nimas Vagas. You need to have machshava to make this geisel to be a tumas eichlin. We're not getting into the halachas there. If he picked it up, the geisel, this is good for my worker here, who's not Jewish, and they can eat it. But I'm thinking about it for food for a human being. Then it becomes tame. It can become capable of being, it will become tame now. No, not going to be tumas eichlin. This is talking about a specific tumah called tumas eichlin of a geisel. I'm not getting into that. Again, not again. Maybe the second time only. This is really from the first times that it's mentioned. However, so if the guy who was thinking to give it to a person is but if he brings it directly, picks it up in order to give it to the Yom Being, because that's a ma'aser, that's not a machshava. Again, over and over and over. Now when that's done, go back. Let's rewind even back. Hilchos Psul HaMikdash. Cotton cannot shech. Even with a gadol watching him, which works by the way, if you have a good sheichet, a cotton, you can shech all your animals and all your chickens, as long as there's somebody gadol watching it. And the reason is because shakotchim sich machshava, the cotton ain't like machshava. Oh, but again, remember about that machshavta in the keres and that ma'aser. Like we'll see soon. It only works to be machma for whatever halachas it's negaya, but not for any heter whatsoever. Okay, he walks into the Beis Hamikdash. Into Razor, and he sees an Eila, and he wants to shecht it. And the Eila is in the south side of the Azor. And the halacha is that where's an Eila shechter and stuff. I mean, you can't get any clearer than that this guy knows what he's doing. Still possible. Now, the Gemara says the reason why it's possible. The Gemara says because we're not sure. Maybe he moved it because he wasn't comfortable in Durham. There were too many people around. Obviously, more kabbanas are shecht in Durham. All shlomim are shecht in Durham, and that's most of the kabbanas. People bring kabbanas because they want to eat too, or whatever reason. And he wanted a comfortable, quiet place. He went over to the shop. It wasn't maybe. Okay. Okay, so I want to go through. In the sugya there in Chulin, it's like Gemara in Chulin, by the way, you days, Gimel. Rashi has a very interesting shitta, and Taisus argues with Rashi. I'm not going to go through inside, I'm just going to give you the rules. According to Rashi, a cotton has maisa if he explains what he's doing. Machashava alone without dibur, the machashava alone meaning dibur without maisa won't help. And the sugya's discussion there is when he didn't speak, he did, but machshavti nikeres take maisa, as we said before. Taisa says not like that. Taisa argues on this dibur. Get dibur out of the picture. Cotton as maisa gamur. For instance, if you carve out an item which is obvious, you don't carve unless you plan to use it as a keli, clearly to be a kli kibble, that it should be a receptacle. It's a maisa. I'm talking about kli eitz over here. Machshava, worthless. Yeah. Yeah. Machshava is worthless. So and yeah, and then the discussion of the Gemara is meaning that there is some indication, but it's not clear. Maybe not. I mean, there's definitely more leaning towards that, but that he did it because he understood that it belongs in Sofim, but it could be not. Okay, so I want to analyze the Rambam shit in this and then project it to an Halacha in Hilchos. First of all, why in the world does the Rambam mention this same Halacha 6 times? So let me tell you, okay, different halachas he speaks about it, but why in Hilchos Tumas in Hilchos Keilim, he Perek Ches, he writes, I explained it already in Hilchos. So if he explained it already, why are you saying it again? It's the exact same halacha. And if for some reason they're not, so why is he comparing it then? Here, Perek Chof and Perek Ches. Why? He already said a Perek Ches, where the main halacha is about machshava. Why does he have to repeat it? And we saw Perek Yudalin and Perek Gimel twice. Then then the Rambam comes up with this idea, Keilu nas is l'odam mitchilas asiyos, right? That he writes in Perek Ches, Keilu nas l'odam mitchilas asiyos. What's he? I mean, obviously he's saying something, but why is it relevant? Who cares? What does he need that for? Now, and also, there is no mention in the Rambam that maybe he doesn't mean to bring it from Durham to Tzavin. The Rambam seems to say it is clear. I mean, Ma'asav Nikish Machashava L'Shitas Kotchim. Not that maybe not. The Gemara says maybe not. How come the Rambam doesn't say that? It's a pella to me. Where does he get to say this? Doesn't ask. Doesn't mention a word about the Gemara's point. Okay, so I think just reading the Rambam without no chidushim here, perhaps others will think differently, but I think just reading the Rambam. Let's read the Rambam. First rule that the Rambam tells us is that there are things. I'll use the expression that we heard so many times from the Rebbe: a ma'isa hu ik. Action is what it's about. What is the machashava negeya? Shabbos megala what the mice is. So just tell you, what am I doing? That is the case of the geisel, the bird that falls into the gas and dies. When he does an action and he elevates it, so the machshava is just is part of the mice and just tells you what I'm doing. And that's considered having a maisa. Cotton has a maisa. We need his masha. We don't need his masha. We just need to know what his maisa was. That tells you the maisa, what he's doing. And the same idea is by Hakika. Hakika Ladas is that the das is really not it's only the das of the Hakika. What am I doing when I carve out? So since he has Maisa, and when you carve out, he's doing it for that reason, because that's why you carve. So that Machashava is part of the Maisa. Now, the case of the Tabas, that he decided to make it a Tabas on, the Rambam, for whatever reason, I don't know why, is mechadish that it's not just enough to decide I want it to basar. It has to be keilu nas lo the meaningkless as. Oh, that requires a machshava, our machshava to recreate history. Don't have that power. They don't have the power of machshava. They have machshava. They're not a thing, but they don't have a power to do anything with the machshava. The machshava can't create. So he's comparing it. I want to show you where such a machshava exists. And Hilchos to Mezaichel it exists, where it has to be a real machshava. It has to be nichalei. You need das over there. So it's not it's the same halacha, because here is a big kiddush. By Motzon Chakukin, however, there is a different halacha. The chiddush is that the machshava needs to create the kli, even though it's cut out. It's a double question. All I'm doing is telling you what this is. No, since you didn't do it, you got to create that kli now with your machshava, and then you can't do it. You need machshava's bailim the shem b'nei there. Then we have things where it's really all about machshava. Kotchim needs machshava. Shakot shchitas kotchim need a machshava. A kot has machshava, it doesn't help shchita. Now, listen to this. The Rambam doesn't lay shot in the Gemara because we're not sure what he's doing. If there would be no other way to translate, not that we have any doubt, but if that action of moving something from Durham to Tzofim would be a clear action of kotchim, of shchita, proper shchita, then it would be in a gedel like we find in Halacha, dvarim shebelev kol adam is good. Even though dvarim shebelev itself doesn't work, but belev kol adam, everybody knows what I'm thinking. No, this would be an action item. There wouldn't be a thinking item anymore. The thought would be part of my action. It would be like what I'm doing. But since there is a thought, now, that when you move things, you could be moving things from south to north normally because I feel more comfortable. Now, even though we have no doubt that that's not why he's doing it, but because that takes it away from being a thought, it wouldn't be that it's an action thought, it becomes a thought. It's a machashava. That's the Rambam's approach, other different than Taisus and Rashi. Okay, so I want to just quickly skim through one point. In Hilchos Sukkah, there's a din that you need to make a sukkah. You don't need to make a sukkah lishma, l'shem mitzvah sukkah. You need to do l'tzeil sukkah. You have to make it l'tzeil sukkah. And the big shaila what that means, l'tzeil sukkah. I'm not going through all the details because it's cumbersome. The Alter Rebbe is mechadish halacha. Now there is the Alter Rebbe's makers and rishonim. The Ritva says almost clearly the words of the Alter Rebbe. The halacha is like this. Let's say I make it l'shem tzeil for the sake of it should be it should protect me from the sun. But I also make it that I should be able to do things privately there that nobody should see. That's my intent. I should be able to work privately. Nobody should be able to see me. Or it shouldn't rain on me. Rambam, the Alter Rebbe's halacha, kol she'eina asuya l'tzeil levat ein zu sukkah ela bais. Beidig chiddush. You gotta do it l'shem tzeil only. Levad. And there's a ritual that says the same thing. Now, let's go to the shayla. The Prima Godim says, "Cotton she'asu sukkah yesh lehem ksheir." It's kosher because ma'isi yesh lehem. Daven and Nezer has the same shayla. What's halacha? Cotton she'asu sukkah. And eventually he says, "But you need the shem tzeil," and then he says, "No, that tzeil." The kavana of schach, l'shem tzeil, is not because we need l'shem tzeil. L'shem tzeil. The word is that a sukkah that's not intended for sale is not a sukkah. It's a house. So this is not totally the one that's making the schach. It's not the cut that's making it. It's not the balabayas. And therefore the balabayas wants l'shem tzeil. Even though the cotton is being masached, it doesn't matter. I saw in Whn the Shlomo Eliashiv asks Akasha on Alter Rebbe. According to the Alter Rebbe, how could a cotton put on schach? Sure, it shows that he's doing it l'shem tzeil. He puts on schach. And according to Taisus, we said Maisa grade the Yeshlam. But maybe he also intends for other things. He's not only intending l'shem tzeil. And according to the Alter Rebbe, you need only l'shem tzeil. There's an indication, and I say that Taisa the Gemara, that a goy can make a sukkah. Perek, the Piskei the Rid Zarish. How come he's not a sukkah guy? He can't live in a sukkah. He can't be in a sukkah. So why here does it work? In sukkah, that's what he has the question. In Avodah Zarah, he answers the question. And he says, because just like by Milah, there he is, talks about Milah. All you need is to cut. That's all. So too sukkah. Any sukkah that's made, let's say, is kosher. It doesn't matter. Even a guy can do it. It's not about creating a sukkah. It's just, I'm making a sukkah for a purpose. The Achreinim ask a question. Why did the Gemara put this halacha of sale by sukkahs ganvach rakvash? Okay, I don't want to get into all that, but that's the question. Okay, so I want to just suggest that l'shem tzeil is an action only. When I make a sukkah, I'm making L'Shem Sel. No matter what you do, I'm putting out a temporary schach, and then in the middle of the street or middle of an area, it's the Shem Sel. And a cotton yesh l'maisa. Now the Rebbe says a meaningkless lashon. Again, I haven't found this source where he gets it from. That the reason we need l'Shem Sel bavad dugmas anane akobet. Dumyed anane akobet. That was why you make a sukkah. You make a sukkah like an anakobet, l'Shem Sel. Now, in the cases of the Gemara, where you already had people didn't do it, they did it because they were farmers, they were out in the street, they were doing other things, and they made it. Now comes Yom Tov, so we have to know they made it L'Shem Sel. But that's because it wasn't done as a sukkah. It wasn't made to be a sukkah originally. This kasha that Rabbi Elyashiv asks, that Whn the Machashava, so he's not, if I can't, he can't make it into a bias. He can only do a sukkah because that's what it is. Because the answer of a sukkah is L'Shem Sel. If you think bias, but you have to think. Or that's one, I think that makes a lot of sense. That he doesn't have to think. He can only do an action that automatically is a sukkah. When you're going to build, the guy goes and tells you, go here, go put up the schach for the sukkah. That's it. That's a sale. That's a Shem sale. To go think it's a bias, he doesn't have machshava. Or the cotton is not the balabos. So again, to make it into a bias is not the other. It's only because the etzem asiyas hasukah is the Shem sale. So this works very well with what we said in the Rambam, and also works well even the taste. I think it works well, but akapanim, the Alter Rebbe is triumphant. It works out very well. I'm not going to go further, but there's a lot more to speak about here. And seid gesund und stark, Hatzlacha Rabba.